Episode 42. Right and Wrong. As he descends the stairs of the Shibuya station, Yuji recalls the words that shaped his life since enrolling at Jujutsu High, as well as his grandfather's dying wish. With the left half of his body completely scorched by Jogo's flames, including that entire side of his face, a severely injured Nanami walks down a corridor, imagining himself strolling along a tropical beach. The dazed Grade 1 sorcerer walks past a photo booth while traversing slowly down the hallway, not knowing that Mahito is inside it. After descending the stairs and coming face to face with a swarm of transfigured humans, Nanami begins to daydream about Malaysia. He wishes he could have built a house on a secluded beach and read the countless books he never got around to finishing. Nanami then remembers that he has to go save Megumi, and he wonders about the whereabouts and conditions of Maki and Naobito, before admitting to himself that he is tired. Despite thinking that he has done enough, Nanami continues to fight, fiercely slicing through the transfigured humans with his blunt sword, all the while imagining himself enjoying his time at the beach. The commotion of his battle draws the attention of Yuji, who runs down the hallway towards the source of the noise. Despite being battered by the transfigured humans, Nanami persists and eventually cuts down the entire horde by himself. He then senses a familiar hand touching his back and realizes that it is Mahito. The cursed spirit tells Nanami that he was present the whole time and asks if the sorcerer has any last words. Meanwhile, Yuji arrives at the floor where the two are and watches them from behind. Instead of replying, Nanami looks down and speaks with Haibara. He wonders why he returned to being a sorcerer with just a vague reason for it being worthwhile, and asks Haibara what he was trying to do. An illusion of Haibara appears in front of Nanami. Nanami tells Haibara that he doesn't want to end up cursing Yuji. Mahito notices Yuji and is amused to see him as the young sorcerer calls out to Nanami and stumbles towards them. Haibara then points behind Nanami at Yuji. In his last moments, Nanami looks and smiles at his protege and entrusts him with the task of exorcising Mahito. Mahito promptly kills Nanami by exploding the top half of his body into bloody pieces, shocking Yuji. Enraged in the next moment, Yuji screams at Mahito and rushes at him to fight. Further entertained, Mahito tells his adversary he can hear just fine without the yelling, preparing for their fated rematch. Mahito calmly flicks a small transfigured human at Yuji and transforms it into a wall that blocks his path. Yuji stops himself from punching the wall as it begs for help. Spikes then protrude from the wall to stab Yuji, though he endures them before breaking them apart. Using soul multiplicity, Mahito follows up with body repel, unleashing a long transfigured monster that breaks through the wall and attempts to bite Yuji with its giant mouth. Yuji successfully grips its teeth and is pushed back through the hall. Mahito suddenly appears from inside the monster's mouth and lands a punch that smashes Yuji's face, launching Yuji away. Tumbling on the ground for a while, Yuji eventually recovers and lands on a pillar, with the attack leaving a bloody gash on his face. As the transfigured monster crashes through the hallway, Yuji dodges to the side. Mahito bursts out from the monster's body on the same side and attempts to use the monster's momentum to strike Yuji with his arm, though Yuji ducks under him just in time. The monster eventually stops after crashing into a wall. Revealing that he transfigured his hand to include a bladed weapon above his knuckles earlier, Mahito claims he could have split Yuji's skull had he used a bit more force. An infuriated Yuji asks how Mahito can toy with so many people's lives, and the cursed spirit just laughs at him. Mahito sarcastically promises to show more remorse whenever he kills going forward. Creating Junpei Yoshino's head with one hand and stabbing through it with the other, Mahito claims that Yuji and him are the same, and until the student accepts that fact, he will never win. Despite being angered, Yuji remembers Nanami's words and remains calm. As Mahito steps back on the ground, Yuji takes a fighting stance as cursed energy flows into his hands, determined to prove that he is a jujutsu sorcerer. Mahito transfigures the monster to sprout countless hands that push on the wall on the opposite side, thus pushing itself towards Yuji and him. The sorcerer and the curse approach each other as the monster closes in on them, eventually squeezing them next to the wall and forcing them to shuffle towards each other in the dark. Mahito takes the initiative and punches at Yuji, only for the latter to suddenly disappear from his sight. He is then kicked in the face by Yuji, and as he staggers from the attack, Yuji kicks him again with both of his feet, pushing him away. Noticing the limited space he has, Yuji kicks the monster, sending ripples through its flesh and slightly pushing it back, giving him more room to move. As Yuji punches the monster, Mahito recovers from the attack and transfigures the monster to create buzzsaws along its flesh that rush towards Yuji, who narrowly avoids them before hitting the monster once more with a cursed energy-infused punch. Transforming his arms into spiked vines, Mahito has several of them roll along the wall towards Yuji, who squeezes past them as he runs at the curse. Creating hands from the monster to use as footholds, Mahito jumps into the air and slams down on Yuji with his right arm, transformed into a spiked club. Yuji dodges the attack by jumping up and prepares to stomp Mahito's face. A hand created from the monster catches his foot before more hands protrude out of it to punch him. Enduring the punches, Yuji kicks Mahito's head into the ground with his other foot before severing the hand, grabbing his foot with his hand coated in cursed energy. Falling down, Yuji is crushed against the wall by the monster as Mahito watches with joy from the ground. The two break through the monster's body moments later. As they walk back into the hallway, Mahito announces that it is time for round 2. At 11:19 p.m., at the Dogenzaka ticket gate in the Shibuya station, Yuji and Mahito continue their battle. Mahito transforms his left arm into the barrel of a gun and shoots at Yuji, using transfigured humans as bullets. The humans miss Yuji and bounce off the walls behind Yuji, with one of them hitting the button to call the elevator. Mahito follows up by enlarging and stretching his foot to stomp Yuji, though the student evades them by running away. As the elevator arrives on the floor, Mahito throws a ticket gate in front of Yuji, which he avoids and throws back, only for the curse to slice it apart with his arms transformed into serrated blades, along with the rest of the hallway. Yuji enters the elevator, and Mahito watches as the elevator doors close. As he descends to B3F, Yuji begins to gather cursed energy in his fist, anticipating an attack from above. His prediction was correct as a giant fist punches through the elevator's ceiling and threatens to crush Yuji, who counters it with his own punch, repelling it back up. The force from the exchange snaps the elevator's cables, causing it to plummet. As it falls, Mahito leaps down and slices through it before landing inside the compartment. Yuji avoids the attack and tries to punch him, but he misses as Mahito twists his head around. The cursed spirit then throws a punch at Yuji while getting close to Yuji. Making a kissing motion, Mahito then transforms his lips into a sharp blade and tries, but fails, to stab through Yuji's head. The sorcerer retaliates with strikes to Mahito's torso, pushing him back. As he throws another punch, Mahito morphs his body to make him miss before transforming his arms into blades again, to slash Yuji. Yuji avoids the attack by jumping out of the elevator and hanging on to the dangling cables. Using body repel once more, Mahito launches a massive transfigured monster that fills up the entire elevator shaft back up at Yuji. Yuji avoids the attack by leaving the elevator shaft through the opened elevator door above, returning to the original floor their fight started on. As the elevator rings to indicate that the elevator arrived, Mahito appears out of a mouth created on the monster and fires a transfigured human at Yuji. Yuji punches it back, but the delayed transfiguration causes it to transform into 4 purple tendrils that shoot at Yuji, forcing him to jump downstairs. As he lands on the stairs below, a massive hand bursts through the ceiling and seemingly crushes him, only for him to punch and destroy it. As the remaining parts of the hand retreat upstairs and merges back with Mahito, The curse notes that Yuji's strength is strong enough to kill him, so he decides to stick to using transfigured humans. Yuji notices that Mahito has unlocked a few new tricks since the last time they came to blows as well. Watching Mahito out of his sight, Yuji gives chase, only to spot two civilians upon turning the corner. Believing that Mahito ran upstairs, Yuji asks the two non-sorcerers to hide. Suddenly, Mahito's arm appears from inside one of their mouths and punches Yuji. The special-grade cursed spirit climbs out of the man, as if he was shedding his skin, and transforms the other civilian into a sword, angering Yuji. Mahito tells his adversary to work on his imagination, hoping to crush his spirit by killing innocents. In order to achieve that end, Mahito thinks that he has one more trick to play as well. At 9:30 p.m., nearly 2 hours ago on Shibuya Station B4F, Dagon consumed numerous civilians using his cursed technique. Mahito, Choso, and Jogo then began their hunt for Yuji. In order to find Yuji first, Mahito split into two of himself and blocked off his competition. A few minutes earlier at 11:16 p.m., Mahito's other self encounters Nobara Kugisaki in the Dogenzaka alley. She recognizes him from past reports from Yuji. Mahito takes it as a compliment that he's famous, but Nobara taunts him by claiming he's only known for being a coward and fleeing. Amused, Mahito decides to kill her, and Nobara fights because she doesn't have anything to show for the incident so far. She tries to remember what it was like to unleash Black Flash, attempting to tap into the core of cursed energy. In a short exchange, Nobara manages to get the better of Mahito using clever explosions of her nails and the environment around them. He admits that she isn't bad but doesn't believe her attacks can actually harm him. The cursed spirit understands that Nobara is an ally of Yuji and plans to bring her corpse to him and destroy his soul.